Merry Christmas! I am Dr. Isophobia, double board certified pediatrician and neonatologist. I am a blogger, an author, a motivational and public speaker. But I think more importantly, I'm also a mother to a 19-month-old. And in the next series of conversations we'll have, because I consider this a conversation, I will be talking about issues that I face in my everyday life as I care for my child. But I will bring to it some measure of data that has been researched, that is evidence-based, and that has some backing to it. So that's what this is going to be about. I have titled this series, Data Doesn't Lie. And honestly, the title comes from my experience this year. I have realized that actions speak louder than words, that people show you who they are, even though they may be telling you something different. And I have come to rely at least more on what people do than what people say. And that's sort of what drove me to dig deeper and just look at the data behind everything I do. And being a scientist, I always want to know what the data and the pros and cons are, but I think this year for me has brought that to the forefront. So the next series of videos will be titled Data Doesn't Lie. I'll have a video every week and we'll touch on different topics. So this week we're going to talk about the season of Christmas, the holiday season. In particular, we will talk about gift giving. So as you give gifts, we buy gifts, we wrap them up, we exchange, white elephant parties. I was looking to buy gifts for my daughter, and I realized that I haven't actually bought her a Christmas gift just yet. I know, it's Christmas morning, but I have a reason. I struggled with buying her more toys. And I think the basis of that struggle was really just, how do I teach her to give more than she receives? How do I teach her to not expect anything in return when she gives? And I think that was the basis of my struggle. And I looked around and I finally found a way to answer the question for her. And the answer to that question is to value the experience of giving more than the giving itself. And I know for a 19-month-old, that is a lofty concept to grasp. So I had to figure out how to bring it down to her level. And I figured it out. The answer is play. Playing. I know, right? Playing. So where I gathered most of the information I'm going to be talking about is from a research article that was done by Dr. Rachel White and published for the Children's Museum of Minnesota. This was done a couple years ago, and she did extensive research on play and learning, and that paper talks about the different types of play in a very succinct manner. And so that's kind of where I pulled from to work and write on this article and this video. Now, just talking about children in general, they develop at, if you want to think about it, you break their development or their stages of development in like 5 big categories. There's gross motor, which is the big movements, fine motor, which is the small movements, social, emotional, and cognitive and executive function. So those are the areas in which you want to see your child develop. All children should develop. And the different types of play sort of should address all these different areas, or at least should stimulate growth and development in these areas. So what is play? Play is defined as by the National Institution of Play. Yes, there's such a thing. They define play as anything that's spontaneously done for its own sake, produces pleasure and joy, obviously, and leads one to the next stage of mastery. This paper broke play into 5 different types of play, and I built my daughter's Christmas gift list around the different types of play. So take a pen and paper out. and start jotting down ideas for your next Christmas. You'll thank me later. So the 5 different kinds of play are social play, media play, object play, pretend play, and physical play. Now, I'm just going to touch on each one. But if you want more information and a more in-depth discussion on each type, I'll put a link to my blog in the video below. And I'll post the blog later this week. So what is social play? It's exactly that, playing with others. The child's first play partner is actually their parent. So us as parents are critically important to how well our children play with other children, right? If they don't play nice on the playground, guess who I'm looking cross-eyed at? You, mom and dad. So please play with your children. Christmas gift number 1, play with your child. As you play with them, model the behavior and actually talk out the things you want them to learn, right? So please and thank yous, be patient, take your turn, wait, don't push, don't hit, things like that. They will eventually learn it. You'll have to repeat it many times, but that's not new. We're all human. We need to hear things 1,000 times before they stick. The second kind of play is object play. So Christmas gift number 2. With object play, kids are just playing with objects, right? It could be anything. It could be building blocks. It could be a fork or a knife. No knives. But as they grow, initially they're using the object and just kind of turning it around and playing with it in their hands, and that is just developing their fine motor skills, right? How they move their fingers around the object and as they explore it. And as they grow older, they use the object for what it is. So like a comb is a comb, right? Or a toothbrush is a toothbrush, as opposed to, being something you shove in your nose or your ears. And as they continue to mature, then that object represents more complex things, like a tower of blocks is a spaceship, or, communicating with aliens or something. These objects just help them develop skills such as problem-solving skills or creative thinking skills, in addition to helping them develop their fine motor skills. So for your Christmas gift number 2, get them an object that can actually transition through all the stages of development. Something like building blocks. That's a very good Christmas gift. Pretend play is a 3rd kind of play. And it's so important because it actually promotes growth and development in all the 5 areas of growth and development: cognitive, gross, fine, social, and emotional. So it's critically important that children are allowed to play pretend. Now, so Christmas gift number 3. I challenge you to, create a storyline for your children, or let them create it. You both narrate, you both take lead, somebody else follows, but just play pretend with them, because as they play pretend, they become creative. They actually find themselves being a different character who's different than they are, and that would promote empathy and understanding for what somebody who's different from them would probably feel or go through in their daily life. And I think this above anything else really creates a kinder human being. So I think it's particularly important. So Christmas gift number 3, play pretend with your children. The 4th kind of play is media play. Yes, media play. I know the media, iPhones, iTablets get a bad rap, but they do have positives and negatives. You do not want your children to have excessive screen time, because they're physically inactive during that time, and it's not very interactive if it's just one-sided. But on the positive end of things, if you allow them to interact with media that is interactive, that requires participation from their end, that also does promote development, particularly in the areas for science and math, which are foundational skills, like problem-solving skills are foundational for areas like science and math. So media play is important. So Christmas gift number 4 I have a link that will help you create a media plan for your family, and I'll drop that in the link below too. And lastly, physical play is number 5 and is also particularly important. This generally boosts 2 areas of development: physical activity, of course, but more so long-term executive function, especially with sustained sports. So because the fact that the kids are sustained in physical activity for a long period of time that requires concentration, it helps them self-regulate better and decide what they need to do when, and not stress